Next News, breaking news.
Elissa Slotkin said the SAVE Act would make Democrats lose any election. Stop right there. She said the quiet part straight into the microphone. Proof of citizenship, voter ID, basic election security, and Slotkin blurted out the Democrats cannot win if Americans have to prove they belong on the voter rolls. That's not a gaffe, that is a confession. Now stack that next to Mitch McConnell going absent, Ted Cruz grabbing the Rules Committee gavel on Monday, and President Trump pushing Mike Johnson to get this bill to his desk. You can feel the trap snapping shut here, and wait until you see the procedural choke point they can no longer hide behind. 51 GOP votes is the effective majority with Mitch McConnell absent this week. So I'm going to read that number again, 51. That means there is zero room for Senate theater, zero room for cartel games, and zero room for one fake Republican to slither off and hide behind procedure while Democrats protect chaos at the ballot box. And look at the split screen with me. President Trump is meeting with Speaker Johnson right now to get the Save America Act passed. You see, the House already passed it 3 times. And Elissa Slotkin is out there blurting that fair rules would crush Democrat wins in any state. Why would voter ID and citizenship verification terrify her that much? Well, you already know why. Democrats need ambiguity. They need loose rolls. They need a system where citizenship gets treated like an inconvenience. And the Senate machine has buried this for months. McConnell, his allies, the usual GOP saboteurs. If Cruz has the gavel and this still stalls, you and I will know it was not an accident, it was a choice. See, Elissa Slotkin just admitted fair rules threaten Democrat power, and Washington is fighting the same war on resources. Ballot Strategic Mining tracks a critical mineral supply chain emergency. Tungsten is now a tungsten national security priority for fighter jets, tanks, missiles, drones, and ammunition use. The U.S. has had no U.S. commercial tungsten mining since 2015, while China dominated supply. Now, Project Vault, you've heard me talk about it, pushes a $12 billion strategic stockpile and $30 billion for domestic production, with Pentagon support for restarting production. Vault Strategic Mining controls historic tungsten assets in mining-friendly U.S. jurisdictions, including a Nevada Great Basin flagship project, proven former mines, modern exploration techniques, and a growing U.S. tungsten portfolio. USGS cited 168,000 tons of tungsten oxide with estimated in-ground value of $30 billion to $50 billion. Watch KNOX in Canada and KNXFF in the United States. Syria's countries secure the chain. Now Monday, with McConnell gone, Ted Cruz rules as the original SAVE sponsor, and that detail changes everything. We're not talking about another empty press release and a bunch of consultant fluff. Ted Cruz, now sits on a live procedural lever, and he's already backed using every tool if leadership blocks the bill. So watch the body language, watch the scheduling, watch who suddenly starts babbling about process, and that is where the fingerprints show up. In a second, I'm going to walk you through the post because they expose exactly who is cornered and who still thinks you will not notice. Here is the Democrat Senator Elissa Slotkin. Says the Save America Act, which would mandate voter ID and citizenship verification, would make it hard for any Democrat in any state to win an election.
The other thing that we blocked yesterday was the SAVE Act, right? Which was literally allow this administration to rig our democracy so that it would be hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election. And disenfranchise all married women in the meantime, by the way. It just you have to show your birth certificate at the polls if you have a married name.
Yeah. Of course, we do not believe that level of propaganda. Just outright lies, continuing to spill from the left. And she says the quiet part out loud. Secure elections make it tougher for Democrats to win. Now here's the cleaner version of the same warning with the focus squarely on proof of citizenship. Democrat Senator Elissa Slotkin warns if the SAVE Act passes, Democrats will have trouble winning elections in any state. The SAVE Act would require proof of citizenship when voting. So Democrats are admitting the SAVE Act is a threat to their machine. Next, Scott Jennings goes on CNN and lays out why Trump is right to use every bit of leverage to force this vote.
Look, I think the president is part of the legislative process. He has opinions. He has the right to use the leverage of his office to try to get the Congress to do things. In this particular case, he's not stopping the bill from becoming law, but he is using it to make a point. His top priority is the Save America Act. And by the way, he's not wrong about this. Vast majorities of Americans want voter ID. They think this is not an unreasonable thing. They think it's common sense to try to secure our elections in that way. And so he's making his political point about that. I think he's right about it. I think the Save America Act would be good. And I think some of the stuff in there is very common sense you were talking about bipartisan ideas. There's no more bipartisan idea in America than voter ID in our elections. And so the president, I think, has a political point to make, and he's well within his bounds to make it. President Trump, by the way, is hardly the first political leader in this country recently to care about election laws. In fact, when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, H.R. 1, the number one bill in the House under Pelosi was an election bill that had to do with federalizing our elections. So both parties have had opinions about how to run elections in this country. It's not unique to Donald Trump, but he certainly feels strongly about it. And I can tell you this, every single Republican I know just about thinks it's a good idea. And so I can see why the president's touting it, because his base absolutely wants it.
In this fact, we do want it. We need it. The public is with Trump on voter ID. But in the Senate, the math gets tight fast, and Mitch McConnell's absence suddenly makes every single GOP vote count. Mitch McConnell officially going absent from Senate floor votes as Senate resumes business this week following a lengthy recess. The effective majority is a mere 51 GOP votes right now, super tight. That means even if we can do Save America Act without the filibuster, we can only lose one single Republican for J.D. Vance to break the tie.
Chow saying he has been hospitalized after suffering a fall last month. This breaks weeks of silence amid growing speculation and concern about the senator's condition. McConnell saying, quote, "My doctors have confirmed I didn't break any bones or suffer a concussion. I didn't have a heart attack or a stroke. I don't have any tumors or hemorrhages." The senator says he underwent tests to determine what caused that fall. He was also treated for mild pneumonia, adding he's been moved now to a rehab facility and is regaining his strength. He says he has every intention of getting back to business as soon as he can.
So with McConnell out, the margin razor thin, Swamp has no room to move. Now Speaker Johnson says Trump is personally pushing to get the Save Act across the finish line.
Come back, gather everybody together. The big urgency is to get Save America passed. The president has that as a top priority, and so do I. We passed it 3 times in the House. We're going to try one more time on a budget reconciliation bill, and I think that will be the way to get it through the Senate and finally to the president's desk. So that's forthcoming.
Okay, I want to.
So Johnson says the urgency is real and Trump wants it done. Next, the pressure shifts to Ted Cruz, because with the Rules Committee gavel in hand, conservatives want actions and not excuses. Cruz just got the keys to the Rules Committee. Here's what he can do with them. Monday, McConnell absent. Cruz chairs the rules. Not vague promises, not we'll see, named procedural levels, specific committee power now. Original sponsor of the Save America Act, his own bill, publicly said he'd use every tool to beat the filibuster. On record, backing nuking the filibuster if leadership blocks it. McConnell already joined Dems once to kill the last procedural motion. The bill needs 60 votes. GOP only has 53. Texas voter ID, the model he cited for years. House already passed it, sitting dead in the Senate for a month. The bill requires citizenship and proof to register. You guys know what it already has. Every excuse he's ever given evaporates Monday. It's not a hearing. It's a test. You don't get handed the Rules Committee by accident during 1 week and your own bill needs a procedural push. You get handed it. The entire country finds out in real time whether the original sponsor meant something or was just a talking point. Cruz's own words are now the ultimatum. Monday is 0 hour. So hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election. That's what Slotkin said. There it is, the entire scam stripped bare in one sentence. She did not say the SAVE Act was unconstitutional. She did not say it was unworkable. She said Democrats would lose because the bill demands proof of citizenship and voter ID. That means the party fighting this bill is fighting for a voting system that benefits from murk, from weak verification, and from blurring the line between citizens and everyone else. Well, Slotkin blurted that out. President Trump hammered to get the bill passed. Mike Johnson pushed to move it, and Ted Cruz got the committee perch that can expose every blocker in the Senate. So if Senate Republicans freeze now, after Democrats confess their motive out loud, they're not getting outplayed. They're protecting the racket. So Ted Cruz uses the Rules Committee gavel to force the fight into daylight. That's the assignment. No more bedtime stories about Senate custom. No more McConnell-style choke points buried under procedure. I mean, you heard Slotkin admit what the bill does. It makes it harder for Democrats to win when elections are secured. Good. See, that's called fairness. That's called citizens deciding American elections. And President Trump is doing exactly what a real leader does here. He's using the weight of the presidency, meeting with Speaker Johnson, and demanding movement while the establishment hunts for trap doors. So now we keep the hot light on every Republican senator, every one. If Cruz moves, we back him. If he stalls, we name it. If McConnell's allies kill this again with only 51 effective GOP votes in play, they own the sabotage. It's Judgment Day. And you guys better be ready to remember every single name. And I want to make sure you don't miss out when the news breaks. That's why we set up this telephone number for you. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already signed up to get on the inside track with the Next News Network when the YouTube notifications never arrive or you can't find our news anymore. Yes, we've heard your frustration. We're just as frustrated as you. So text raw feed to 844-840-4963 to get on the inside track with the Next News Network.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.